Hey guys, welcome to episode number 136. Today is Wednesday, so it's DIY Wednesday, but I thought I'd combine Update Monday and DIY Wednesday this week because it's a little bit of both in terms of the stuff that I want to cover today, and it's been a really crazy week, so I haven't had a chance to make videos. But anyways, this is where the fish room is currently. I have all 4 stands built underneath. I'm just using it as storage temporarily, and you'll see I have the one tank set up here on the end. That's just because I needed to put the fish in it, and obviously all of these cords and filters and things that are all out in the middle of the floor won't be there in the end. But what I wanted to do was kind of walk through this entire wall and all of the elements that are going to be incorporated into it within the next few weeks. The most obvious part here are the 2 tanks that are missing. I'm going to go pick those up this weekend. They're back home. They've been in storage for a little while, and once I pick those up, then I'll be ready to start moving really quickly on all of the other parts. But I guess I'll start at the top and work my way down. So from the ceiling, I'm going to hang some strip lights. I'm going to get some T5 high output fluorescent lights. I'll probably hang them maybe 6 or 7 feet tall, maybe 5. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to see exactly how large they are so that I don't bump my head into them, but I want as much light to actually enter the tanks as possible. If I hang them too high, it's just going to light the room instead of lighting the tank. So that's probably what I'll do here, and I think what I'm going to do is have 2 4-foot fixtures. So I'll have one 4-foot fixture midway between these 2 tanks, and another 4-foot fixture midway between those 2 tanks, and that should put off quite a bit of light here against this wall. The next thing is, obviously, the tanks are all going to be lined up in a row here. I've got to adjust all of these stands to make sure that they're all level and they're all square with one another, because the next thing I'm going to do is empty this tank and that tank and clean everything, clean all of the tanks, and I'm going to drill them. I'm looking at a 1-inch bulkhead to drill a hole into these tanks, and what's going to happen is that will probably be done on the back side, probably towards one of the corners, and I'm going to keep it consistent, so it's going to be drilled in the same place on all 4 tanks. I'm going to do an external Durzo standpipe style overflow, and what that means is I'll have the filter strain on the inside, I'll have the bulkhead on the outside, I'll have the Durzo with the cap and the hole in the cap, and I'm going to run a barbed fitting down into a wastewater manifold. And essentially what that's going to be is probably like a 2-inch pipe. I'm not quite sure the exact diameter yet, but I'm thinking it's going to be around a 2-inch PVC pipe, and I'm going to have an elbow here, I'm going to have a T there, and another T there, and each one of these tanks is going to have braided nylon connected to a barbed fitting, so that overflow line, that 1-inch overflow line, is going to go into the manifold. This is going to be probably on the back side of these stands, so it isn't something that you're going to be able to see. It might be visible if you crouch down here. You may be able to see it running underneath the tanks, and that's going to run the entire length here, all the way over to this bay, which is the end of the fish room. And under this one stand is going to be a 20-gallon tall aquarium, and that's going to be my sump tank. It fits pretty perfectly within the bottom of this stand, and I looked at other options like the plastic tote containers and a few other things, but I couldn't really find anything that was a large enough volume and which also fit underneath this tank. So, you know, a 20-gallon sump is fairly small considering the number of gallons that are going to be placed up above it. But I feel like I'm going to have plenty of filtration in each one of the tanks as well. So I'm not really relying on the sump as, you know, the primary means of filtration. It's just going to be, you know, what's helping to move the water around, turn it over, and there will be a filtration component to that sump. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to set the sump up yet, so if you guys have any opinions, definitely let me know. And the sump is going to be drilled on this side, and that's going to be probably, you know, most of the way up the 20-gallon tall tank, and that's actually going to run a I believe I'm going to do a 3/4 inch bulkhead there, and that's actually going to go straight through this wall. I'm going to cut the drywall here on this wall. This is an interior wall, so I'm not going to run into any insulation. There's no power that's run on this wall, so I'm not going to run into any wires. So I'll just cut an opening there, and I'll drill my hole through the floor, through the floorboards here. So I won't be damaging the actual floor. It will just be drilling a hole through the wall and running my waistline through there. And so essentially what will happen is if the entire system gets to a certain water level, the extra water will overflow out of there. So my drain manifold is going to all drain into the sump tank. I'm going to have a pump pumping back up. And if you know, the power goes out and the tanks kind of drain down to wherever that bulkhead is, all that extra water will end up in the sump tank, and all of that extra water will end up out the waistline. But the pump is going to pump water up into another manifold, and I really like the idea of having everything being gravity fed. I've got the gravity fed overflows. I want to have gravity-fed return lines as well. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to set up another, you know, maybe 2-inch PVC pipe. I haven't quite calculated what I want to use yet, but set up another manifold which runs the length of the tops of these tanks. And what it's going to do is have an elbow here, a T here, and probably another elbow here, or a T, I mean. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt it on its side, and let's see if I can find a part just to demonstrate my point. Pretend this was a 2-inch PVC T. What I would do is probably have it positioned something like this, slightly at an angle, so that the tube itself, the 2-inch pipe, can fill up with water to a certain point, and then it's going to spill over. So it's going to be gravity fed, just like a waterfall, back into the tank, and that will provide oxygen, that will provide a return line for the water into the tanks. And the best thing about it is it's not going to restrict the pump at all. So I'm not going to put a ball valve on the pump to restrict the return. I just wanted to kind of go full blast into the manifold, and then that can kind of spread out over these 4 tanks and return the same amount of water, as long as the angle that I adjust this at is the same for all of the tanks. The amount of water that returns back into each one of these tanks should be the same. So essentially that's how the water is going to circulate. I will have sponge filters in every one of the tanks, probably multiple sponge filters in each one of the tanks. And you know, one other thing that I'm thinking of doing, and that's actually why I have this on the front here, is just to demonstrate. Marina has a hang-on breeder box, and if you haven't heard of them or seen them, definitely go check them out. I think you can Google Marina hang-on breeder box, and I think you should be able to find it. But essentially what it is it kind of reminds me of a hang-on back filter. except it's meant to be placed on the front of your tank. It's all clear plastic, and what it is a chamber which holds water in the front of your tank. So it's kind of like, you know, your specimen boxes, right? But what it does is, on one side it has an airlift which is connected to an air line, and that lifts water into the first side of the chamber. And then you have the chamber filled with water the entire length, and there are some dividers, kind of like, you know, beta boxes you may have seen, and that allows you to kind of separate each one of these chambers into as many parts as you need. And then on the opposite end you kind of have the waterfall spilling back over into the tank. And what that allows you to do is put your fish, your breeding fish, or your pregnant fish in a box like this, and allow them to give birth in that box. Potentially separate, you know, the mother from the fry, and then raise those fry in a smaller volume of water to allow you to feed them more easily, but which still has the circulation and the water temperature from the main tank. So I believe Marina makes those in 3 sizes, and the largest one is probably about this size, maybe a little bit smaller, and I believe 3 of those will fit on the front of one of these 40-gallon tanks. I'm not sure if putting that much water and that much weight is wise on one side of a tank like that, but I'll definitely start out with 1 and see how that goes. But I guess that brings me to the species of fish that I think that I want to breed. I think I want to breed Endler's live bearers, and I've done a little bit of research, and they look like a pretty easy fish to breed, which is always good. They're very colorful. There are all kinds of different varieties, and a lot of them actually seem like they're fairly rare, in some cases endangered. And you know, I think it would be a very fun project, because I'd be able to essentially have 4 strains of Endlers, 1 in each tank, and have a fairly large breeding colony of fish in every one of those tanks. So, you know, one of the first things I want to do in order to protect such a large number of fish, breeding fish, is to make sure that I never fall behind on my water changes. So I said that the drain line would be coming through this wall into the basement, and that's going to connect to the house drain line in the basement. But through that same hole, I'm going to run a drip irrigation line, and I believe I'm going to drip at about 1 gallon an hour, and that's going to come up through that same hole that I drill, and it's going to enter probably the sump tank. And I might have that on an adjustable nozzle to go for anywhere from 1 to 10 gallons per hour. But essentially what the idea is to also set up a dosing pump. There are medical dosing pumps which a lot of people use to dose a lot of the chemicals or the solutions that people use in saltwater aquariums, especially with corals. They've got like calc mixes and everything else, calcium, and I'll probably end up doing something similar there, but I'll probably be dosing Nova Aqua, a water conditioner, directly into the water, because the town water that I'm on does have monochloramine, and you know, if I was to drip that into the tank, it would kill all of the fish pretty quickly. But if I'm dosing the appropriate amount of Nova Aqua with the appropriate drip rate into this system, then you know, the extra will just overflow out of the sump tank, and I'll never have to do a water change ever again, which sounds like a dream come true to me, and I'm really looking forward to it. So if you guys can picture all of that from what you see right here, That's what I have in my mind. And I have read a lot about painting aquarium backgrounds. I've done some research, and I think that the general reaction is that a lot of people like using black backgrounds, and I think that's probably going to work out just fine for the type of fish that I want to breed and keep in these aquariums. And I'll definitely do videos of each of the steps that I just mentioned to set this fish room up. But I believe I'm going to go with black backgrounds on all 4 of these tanks, and I'll do an in-depth video on painting backgrounds as well. But that's probably going to come right after I drill the bulkheads on the tanks. But yeah, black over blue over white seems to be the general trend. So I'll definitely go with the black, try to get the most contrast, and then I just have to worry about getting my fish. But as you can see, I have plenty of fish to play around with and to get all of these tanks up and running with. So that's the plan here within the next few weeks, is to get this room put together. And I know it's been a few weeks and there hasn't really been a whole lot of progress. The stands were a lot of work, but I've just basically been waiting on these extra 2 aquariums here. So now that I'm about to pick those up, things will start to happen at a rapid pace. And this is the view from my computer chair, so I will be able to access and enjoy all of my aquariums directly behind me. So pretty excited about that, pretty excited about putting the rest of this fish room together and making it the best it can be. If you guys watched this far in the video, and I'm sorry it's such a long video, definitely let me know if you have any suggestions, if you think there are any concerns with the plan that I've laid out, and I'll definitely take those into consideration before I finish this build. I think I've got it all planned out fairly well, but you never know. So let me know, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later.